I've kind of realized there's not really a perfect definition of mental health. And I think that's such an important thing to keep in mind, just because it changes every single day from person to person. And I know that for me, especially, every day is different. So to me, like mental health and just having a healthy state of mind is being able to recognize the fact that it changes and just our thought patterns and how we behave and just being able to realize that. So I think just being aware is the most healthy thing that we can be, and just paying attention to the way we are. So it's normal to have bad days. And I think being able to accept that and to allow ourselves to feel and to let the emotions in, then that is just a healthy way to go about it. I know I personally have tried to shut out when I feel sad or stressed. I just try to push those emotions to the side, but I'm realizing as I'm entering adulthood, that's just not necessarily the right way to go about it. Otherwise, you'll just crack at one point. So um, I think mental health is just um, allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel, and letting yourself know that it's okay and that it's not like a taboo thing to feel sad or upset, and that it's all right. I think about my mental health every single day, some days more than others. As I said, it's healthy to check in with yourself regardless of how you're feeling. But my mental health routine changes as well. I've had seasonal depression since I was about 5 years old. I was diagnosed with that. So, like this time of year, especially, I have to be much more intentional about checking in with myself and establishing a routine. And I don't know, this could be like attributed to going back to school and like a drastic change in my schedule and whatnot. But for me, when I'm feeling super stressed out, at least in the moment, something that really helps me is just like stepping to the side, closing my eyes, taking some deep breaths, and kind of just like getting back to center, if that makes sense. Um, I think deep breathing is just a great technique, and this doesn't work for everyone, but for me, like I'm very anxiety ridden. So just like taking deep breaths to calm myself, that really helps me. I also prioritize my fitness routine. I currently live in the city, so it's really easy to just go on a long walk or to go to the gym. I also joined the dance company at FIT, so getting involved with extracurriculars, get your body moving. It's definitely a great stress reliever. Um, and one of the most important things that I had kind of taken note of is making sure that you're intentionally scheduling time to relax and to not do anything. I think like as students especially, I know for me, like I'm a student, I work full time, I have other side initiatives. So I have a pretty full calendar. So I have to make sure I'm not over scheduling myself and make sure there's some gaps either throughout the day or the week that I don't have anything planned, because that would be the time for me to decompress and to kind of check in with myself and to relax. So I think that's really important as well. I think, first of all, social media can be an amazing place. I think a lot of us misuse it, but I do think that social media has a potential to just be a great place for everyone to connect and get inspired. However, I think it can be a very dark and bad place. College age students, especially, can be, they can compare themselves a lot, whether that's the way they look, the things they have, the money they're making, and just the lives they live. And the sad part is that we're comparing ourselves to strangers for the most part. So I don't know. It's just really, it's crazy that we're allowing our own self worth and our perception of ourselves to be impacted by or influenced by people that we don't even know. So that's just like an interesting observation I've made, I guess, over the past, I don't know how long I've been on social media, maybe like 8 years now. And like we're barely even looking at people that we know directly. We're mostly comparing ourselves to people we don't know. So I think that's like, once you catch yourself doing that, that's definitely not good. Especially like women, it's tough because people are presenting the best versions of themselves on social media. So I'll talk about this later, but I just think keeping in mind that people are posting a highlight reel for the most part. They're not showing the way they look when they're just at home on the couch eating a bag of chips, watching a movie. So um, it's really easy to get caught up in that. So I think just keeping in mind that social media, for the most part, is not an authentic representation of who's posting is a good way to just like avoid feeling bad about yourself. Um, and obviously today, in the day of like Photoshop and plastic surgery, it's really hard, especially for women, to kind of judge themselves and maybe not see themselves in a positive light, especially when it comes to their body. I've definitely dealt with that too. So yeah, I think it's just being aware of like all of the all the different changes and edits that people can make when we're talking about a photo. For a few years, I was doing influencing or micro influencing. That's a form of marketing where brands would either compensate me or send me products in exchange for posts and promotion. So for a while, it was a lot of fun, and there's people today that make full time income off of this. Um, but it just started to feel very like artificial, and that I wasn't really remaining true to myself. So last year, I actually made the decision to not engage in influencing anymore. I just kind of found I wasn't being very authentic, and I was just posting to make money, which obviously that's not good. So, yeah, I just found myself feeling like social media was a chore, and I began focusing way too much on like the way I looked and how I presented to everyone else and my following. So it honestly it began to affect my relationships with people in real life, because I started to care more about my relationships with people over the internet. And I totally understand and respect like that industry, and that it's a big thing, but for me it just didn't work after some time. So yeah, I mean, and it's interesting for me too. I would track like my posts and see how they were performing, and if something wasn't maybe doing as well as another, I just kind of like felt myself basing my self-worth on the performance of my posts. So that just, yeah, it just wasn't fun. And I've been like, I haven't really done any of that. Like, I haven't engaged in those opportunities in over a year now, and I just find myself feeling like less anxiety about social media, Instagram in particular. And I barely use it now, because I just feel like for the longest time I was so like glued to it and kind of based my entire self-worth off of it and how I did on there. So now it's like polar opposite. I kind of just like stepped back from all of that, and like I don't really care about social media at this point. I think I definitely noticed it when I was starting to do brand deals that weren't really like true to myself. I was promoting things I didn't actually like just because I would get paid for it. And like one time, like I remember my mom telling me like, would you actually use this in your everyday life? Yet you're basically lying to people that you like it. So like it kind of like that a couple years ago when she had said that, I didn't really listen to her because I was an arrogant teenager, but like um I feel like it took me a little while to really understand what she meant by that. And I kind of put myself in the position of like the average consumer scrolling through social media. How would I like it if someone was recommending something to me and they didn't actually stand behind the product or the service, whatever they're doing? So um, that I kind of started thinking about it like that, and it kind of just turned me off to the whole idea in general. Um, so, transitioning out of it, I kind of just stopped doing it. And, like, I guess I still caught myself like caring a little bit, but I think over time you start to realize like there's so much more. Obviously, it's unrealistic to just tell people to stop using it altogether. Like I said, these platforms are a way for us to literally stay in touch with family members, friends. Um, but yeah, it's about how we use the app and how we allow it to impact us. So I think a big thing for me was going through who I was following and unfollowing the people or the accounts that maybe didn't make me feel so good about myself. And instead following people that like actually made me feel positive and happy. And that's not anyone's fault. If an account is making you feel jealous or maybe not good about yourself, it's not their fault. But it's okay to just be like, yeah, maybe they don't make me feel so good about myself. It's a simple task, just unfollow. Like, I think that's really helped me. And obviously, that's not something you can do in like 10 minutes. Some of us are following like thousands of people, but I think taking like a few weeks to go through that um, really helped me. And I also sometimes I take like week-long breaks, so I will just completely like delete the app and then just re-download it at a later point and log in again. And you almost just feel you're like taking a little vacation from that. And again, I think when I wanted to talk about like the whole highlight reel thing, it's just keeping that in mind as you're scrolling through. Like people are posting their best moments when they're at their best, looking their best, feeling their best, and I just think it's important to keep that in mind so you don't start to um, fall down the rabbit hole of comparing yourself.